Hi, I'm Caleb Giddings from Gun Nuts Media, and today's video we're doing another weird Beretta review. Well, I don't know if weird is necessarily the right word, but I have a lot of Berettas, and we're going to keep reviewing them because it's fun for me. As you can see, the destruction of my office continues apace behind me, but let's get on to today's review. And today we are reviewing the strange, curious, and wonderful Beretta 92 Compact. The Beretta 92 Compact is an interesting gun, to say the least. It comes from an interesting stage in Beretta's history where they were obviously competing very strongly for the concealed carry market, and they still are today, obviously, but they were really trying to look to address some of the issues with the Beretta M9/92FS as a carry gun, namely the fact that it's the size of a small car. Now, obviously, you can carry an M9 concealed. I do, and it's relatively easy when you use a good AIWB holster. But back in the early 90s, that option wasn't really there for a lot of people. Enter the 92 Compact. Now, here are the big differentiators of the 92 Compact from the regular M9. And before you ask, yes, this gun has already been modified. So, some of the big differences: it's shorter. The grip only accepts 13 rounds, and as you can see, I can just barely get my pinky all the way on that grip. The barrel is also shorter. The slide and the entire barrel and everything together trimmed down are 4 inches. So that gives you about an inch less than the M9. It's still aluminum frame, DASA, the whole 9 yards. Everything else to someone who shoots a 92 FS or an M9 is going to be very familiar. The controls are the same. A lot of the parts are interchangeable. Pretty much all of the parts are interchangeable, as a matter of fact. It's basically a 92 FS frame that they chopped off a little bit earlier. Lots of the parts interchange. As a matter of fact, if you want to do an upgrade using the Langdon drop-in trigger job, trigger job and a bag kit on this, it works. How do I know? Because there's one in this gun. But let's get back to the 92 Compact. So this isn't a gun that we see in America all the time. Beretta imports these sort of in fits and spurts. They'll do a bunch of them one year, and then they won't do them for a while, and then they'll bring them back, and then they won't do them for a while. And it's basically just sort of to feed the small but present demand for weirdos like me who like this gun. They're super cheap right now. When this video drops, they should be on Grab-A-Gun still for relatively affordable prices. But anyway, there's also 2 models of this that are currently available. There's this model, which is the one that I prefer for concealed carry, specifically because it doesn't have a rail on it. You can also get a railed model of this, which is great, but it is, and it's fine, but it's not really what I think of when I think of a lighter, more concealable carry gun. Other stuff, like technical stuff, it's a 92, which means the trigger is going to be good. It's going to be even better after you put a 13-pound Wilson Combat Spring in it, which I've done. It's going to be even better after you put in a steel trigger as opposed to the plastic trigger that it ships with. And then the last thing I've done, and this is largely for aesthetics, is I've put on a spurless hammer, which I think looks cooler and is better, in my opinion, on a carry gun than a spurred hammer. Not that it's really that big a deal. The other change I'm going to make to this gun is I'm going to add thin grips to it to slim up the profile, and last but not least, I'm going to delete the support side safety because I don't need that. But this is all fun theoretical talk. Let's go shoot. .247 with 1 miss just low. All right, up next is the failure drill. .206, 1 miss just high out of the head. All right, up next is 2 to the face, immediate incapacitation. Nailed that in a 217. And now, last but not least, the double failure drill. Failure drill. Double failure drill. 4 body, 2 head. All right, 309. Let's look at the scores. Da, 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 da. All right, I've got 1 out down here and 1 out in the head box. All right, so that wraps up the Gabe White Standards first evaluation for this gun. I'm using 147 grain Federal FMJ ammo, the American Eagle line, which is one of my go-tos. I use it all the time. I'm very fond of it. It works well in almost everything I use, so it's kind of my go-to. As a matter of fact, if I get a gun that won't run Federal 147 American Eagle, I kind of get the skeptical hippo-wise. But anyway, back to the 92. So, 92 FS Compact, how did it do on the Gabe White Standards? Well, every run I shot would have been good enough for a light pin, which is the second level of performance on the Gabe White Standards. And one of the runs, the immediate incapacitation, would have been good enough for a turbo pin, which is the highest level of the Gabe White Standards and is a pretty impressive shooting accomplishment if you can actually go to his class and get a turbo pin. Again, this was my very first time shooting this gun, and I really like how it shot. The recoil impulse is very similar to a 92 FS. There's not a lot of felt recoil because the gun is fairly heavy, but from shooting from concealment from a regular leather holster, I was running that with a traditional IWB holster, the Galco Royal Guard for a Beretta 92, which fits this obviously, and everything was fine to start with. Let's see how we did on the IDPA 5x5 now. .311. Neat. Up next, 5 reload 5. .688. 5 strong hand only. And that's a 431. And last but not least, 4 body 1 face. Woo! I dumped 1. 364. Not a great shot on that middle one. But let's have a look at the target. Down 1. Everything else, money. Kind of like this gun so far. IDPA 5x5 drill is done. Based on the scores that I shot and the times that I had, I would have easily classified as master in the CCP division, which, as a fun side note, I'm currently classified as expert in. I should probably get that fixed. But anyway, the gun continued to perform well. It's very easy to shoot, just like all Beretta 92 pattern guns. They're easy to shoot well because, you know, this whole myth that the DA trigger pull is hard is just that. It's a myth, all right? Look, the trigger pull, the DA trigger pull in this gun is now 8 pounds. The stock trigger pull in this gun wasn't that bad either. And once you can figure out the DA trigger pull, the rest of it becomes easy. It's not like shooting, say, a lightly modified Glock still has kind of a crappy trigger, right? And you have, if you're shooting a 15-round magazine, you have 15 crappy trigger pulls. With this, even by a layperson's definition of a crappy trigger pull, I have one crappy trigger pull in a 15 round magazine, and then I've got 14 really great trigger pulls, because the single action trigger pull in this gun is 3.5 pounds, like most of my Berettas that I've modified. It shoots well, and it's very easy to shoot well. Now, it's shot well in these technical standards and these performance evaluations. Can it shoot a group? Let's have a look. Well, shit. So, interestingly, this one was the first round out of the magazine. Now, some people say that rounds loaded by hand feed slightly differently and have a slightly different point of impact than rounds loaded by the gun itself. I don't know if I believe that, but in this case I am, because here's my other 4 rounds out of that 5-shot group. This is a good ass group, and I'm real happy with that. That was a really good group. And again, we shoot these groups at 15 yards standing unsupported as a way to figure out the real world performance capabilities of these guns, because most people aren't ever going to shoot their gun past 15 yards, supported or otherwise, when it comes to a handgun. But I have noticed, and I've said this before, there is a pretty strong correlation or similarity between what I can do 15 yards unsupported and what I can do at 25 yards supported. So is this gun accurate? Yeah, that was with 147 grain FMJ ammo. Imagine what it could do if I shot some Hornady critical defense, aka the most accurate self-defense load known to man, through this thing. Let's sum this up. And again, this probably won't be a surprise. Shock, guys! Caleb likes a Beretta. Double shock, Caleb likes a Beretta 90 series. I've actually had a Beretta Compact before. This is the second one. The first one I had was a Type M, which was Beretta's very weird single stack that they made for not a long time, for a very short time, but they made it a long time ago. The Beretta Compact's an interesting gun. It's a gun that never really caught on in the US, which is why you don't see it very often in the US. Again, like we said at the top of the video, it's why Beretta only occasionally imports this gun. But it's a neat gun. It is lighter and smaller than a full-size 92. So if you're looking for a carry option and you carry it and you have a 92 and you like a 92 and you shoot a 92 in matches, or you have to carry one for work or whatever, it's not a bad choice. It kind of missed the compact market because it's not as light as a Glock 19, but it's a lot easier to shoot. And if you ask me, it's a lot better looking. I'm Caleb Giddings. Thanks for watching. Until next time, run your gun, not your mouth.